Both Ithaca and Union entered Saturday's matchup unbeaten, ranked, and looking to clinch a spot in the NCAA tournament, but unfortunately only one team could emerge victorious. We have highlights from the game, and we're going to have Coach Dan Swanstrom joining us in studio to break down all of Saturday's actions. Alyssa Spady has your Liberty League roundup, and as always, Fourth and to Goal has a lot to debate. This is the Gridiron Report, and it starts right now. Welcome to the Gridiron Report. I'm your host, Matthias Wallman. Thanks for tuning in for everything Bombers football. Last week, the 8th-ranked Bombers picked up a shootout win over the winless Yellow Jackets last week. But this week, however, brought in the undefeated and 25th-ranked Union Dutchmen. I'm joined now by head coach Dan Swanstrom. Coach, thanks for coming on.
Absolutely, glad to be here.
So, coming in, Union is ranked and they're undefeated, one of the best offenses in the league. What was the emphasis on in practice?
I just thought, our emphasis rarely changed, but they had a good running attack and good play action game, getting the ball vertical down the field, and we knew they had a great wide receiver and a great tailback, and those were the two focuses of our game plan.
And I know every week you say that it's a faceless opponent and that you don't prepare differently, but there is a little bit more pressure on this game just because the winner punches their ticket to the NCAA tournament. I know for Cortica sometimes you guys try to add a little more crowd noise into practices. Is there anything you did different in practice this week?
No. The truth is college football every week's a playoff game, and the opportunities are rare, and the competition is always feverishly trying to beat you. So, this is just part of the reality of living in the world of college football, and the opportunities are rare. Every week's a playoff game, and you have to prepare as such for each game.
All right, so huge game on Saturday. Let's see what happened. We have the highlights. We're going to see exactly what went down. Now in the first quarter, going to Andre Ross Jr., that gets Union on the board first. That was actually Will Gladney in on coverage on him, but Ross Jr. able to get free, and Joe Germinario going to Andrew Vito. Vito gets by one defender. Then look at Mikey Anderson on the backside block, and Vito is gone all the way to the house. Second straight game for him that he has over 70 yards in a single reception. Bombers tie this one up in the first quarter, and Union got a field goal. Germinario trying to go deep over the middle. That one nearly intercepted on fourth down, so the Dutchman will take over, but this Ithaca defense doing a good job of holding Union off the board. And Germinario again over the middle, intercepted by a safety for Union, read his eyes all the way. Germinario would have 4 turnovers on the day. That return got him back to the 50-yard line. This was one of his touchdowns, however. 4th rushing touchdown of the season for Germinario. That gives the Bombers their first lead of the afternoon. And Union on offense. Up to this point in the second quarter, the Dutchman only had 6 yards of total offense, but Andre Ross Jr. breaks free for over 30 yards. A couple penalties later, IK Irabor, they stop him at the line, but great vision by Irabor to get into the end zone. That gives Union the lead once again. That was his first touchdown of the day. And then on 4th and 1, Germinario accidentally bobbles the handoff and turns it over. And then Union back on offense. Irabor into the end zone for the second time in the game. 24-14 now the score. Bombers needed a turnover. Irabor on the pitch. Here comes Johnny Haddock with the strip. Mikey football. Mikey Rumes jumps on top of it. And the Bombers have the ball again, and they've got to get something going. Germinario looking the way of his favorite target all day. Look at Andrew Vito coming back for the ball and making a diving catch to finish the day with 198 receiving yards, and why not go right back to him. Second touchdown of the day for Vito. The Bombers could not recover the onside kick, and then this was the backbreaker. Irabor breaking free. No one's going to touch him. Over 180 yards on the day. That's a reason he is the #1 rusher in the Liberty League. His trifecta of touchdowns gives Union a 31-21 win. Union claims the Liberty League crown and is going to the playoffs for the first time since 2006. Ithaca, meanwhile, now sits at 7-1 and drops to 17th in the D3Football.com rankings. Coach Swanstrom, what did you see in this game that you wish your team could have done differently or a little better?
Oh, I mean, I just don't. A lot of credit goes to Union. They played well, and there's a lot of things that, it's just not one thing. It's just a lot of little different details that we wish were tightened up, and it starts with everybody on the field, and there's a lot to improve on. So, we're excited to get back to work today. We got a great opponent this week, and once again, we have another playoff game, so we should be ready to go and prepare. And I'm not sitting here. I know I'm here talking to you guys, but I'm not really dwelling on the past. I'm picking myself up and getting back to work, and that's blunt as I can put it.
And as you saw from the rankings, the season very much not over for the Bombers. They still have 2 very important games left. Going back to this Union game, though, at one point it was 24-14. Bombers have the ball 4th and 10 on the Union 36-yard line. You elect to go for it on 4th and 10 instead of kick the long field goal. What was the decision there?
53-yard field goal. I don't, that's a long field goal anywhere on the grass, and I'm pretty confident we were going into the wind at that point. That's a pretty tall task for some of the best kickers in the NFL. I know Nick's good, but I've never even thought about that one a second time. And I live in a world of 50-50s, and that wasn't a 50-50 in my mind.
And looking at this game, of course, it's not over, but it is a heartbreaking loss. How is the team rebounding from this, and what are you doing in the locker room to make sure they're not looking at the past and, like you said, they're looking forward?
Oh, I mean, you win, you lose. I mean, that's just the game you live in. And we show up on Sunday, whether the results, and we get back to work. That's how this whole thing works. And you pick yourself back up, and you just keep fighting on. And if you can't do that, then you don't belong in our program.
Now, looking at the breakdown on offense, you threw the ball 60 times and ran it 20, even though you were running the ball effectively on the ground. What was the game plan coming in? Did you know you wanted to be pass heavy, and what was the no adjustment in the game in terms of you just kept throwing the ball?
Well, I mean, we got to a point where we needed scores, so throwing the football is part of the game, and you play us a particular way. We're going to take what we think is the best opportunities to go score points, and we felt very strongly about putting the ball in our quarterback's hands and putting the ball in our receivers' hands to go make a ton of plays. No one was complaining up to this point. We're averaging 48, 49 points a game. So, sometimes, in a world of 50-50s, it's just not perfect. So stuff happens.
And looking at third downs, coming in, the team was ranked 3rd in the nation in third down conversion, just 4 of 12 on the day. And then on the defensive side, they looked like they had a lot of opportunities to stop Union, and they just could not get off the field sometimes. Where was the discrepancy in those numbers? What did they do well on third downs?
Oh, they were just very sound defensively. They did a really nice job, and made us earn it and made us work for the first downs. And third downs is a part of the game, and we work on the third down part a lot in practice. But the reality is, certainly on the offensive side of the ball, being in third down is a result of us not having success on first and second down. So that's the way I see it. And then, defensively, continually putting them in third and longs is going to give you the best opportunity. And we did that, and we certainly got to improve what we're doing to get ourselves off the field, and certainly can't play 36 minutes of defense, and that goes to our offense and converting third downs in any game, not this game, just any game.
So the Bombers trying to look forward and see if they can get things going. Our very own Casey Honigbaum had a chance to head down to historic Jim Butterfield Stadium and catch all the action from this Saturday.
It was a battle of undefeated teams here at Butterfield Stadium. The Ithaca Bombers took on Union. Unfortunately for the Bombers, it was not the result they wanted. Going down 31-21, the Bombers will drop to 4-1, and they unfortunately will not receive an automatic bid to the NCAA tournament. The Union Dutchmen, however, will receive their first bid since 2006. I caught up with senior quarterback Joe Germinario to discuss his thoughts on the game. So obviously, not the result you guys wanted today. What do you think you'll look to improve on this next week in practice?
I Well, first off, I'm very proud of our guys. Our defense, it might not look like with the 31 points, but they played so hard, and hats off to them. And then our O-line, they kept me upright all day. I missed some reads, that 4th and 1 fumble. I made too many mistakes, and I hurt us because the defense got us the ball back. But again, we're not going to, dwell our heads. We're going to just come back and be stronger, and I think this is going to make us stronger as a group because this isn't going to define our season.
Talking about the offense a little bit more, with the 80 going down, do you think it put a little bit of pressure on you, to not have that versatile run game, and then you have to rely a little bit more on the passing?
I don't think so. I think we have other guys that are, really talented. I didn't think that played a huge hit, but we know Isaiah does a lot of great things. I don't think it necessarily hurt us. I just think, just unfortunate bad reads and just, we didn't really convert on 4th down like we've done in the past. And I take full blame, and, I'm not going to run for it. But, I'm going to be better, and we're going to be better as a group. Coach talk, even as coaches, they want to be better because we all think we can improve on this. Obviously not the result we wanted, but just got to move forward.
Ithaca will head back to work next weekend in RPI to try and get back in that win column. From Butterfield Stadium, I'm Casey Honigbaum with the Gridiron Report.
Thank you for that report, Casey. Coming up on the Gridiron Report, your Players of the Week, Alyssa's Liberty League update, and the 4th and goal debate. So make sure you stick around. The Gridiron Report will be right back. Thanks for watching the Gridiron Report. We just had Coach Dan Swanstrom in the studio. The Liberty League crown goes to Union, but still some games around the league. Alyssa, what happened this weekend?
Thanks, Matthias. I'm Liberty League analyst Alyssa Spady. Games this weekend were pivotal to one team claiming the Liberty League title. Let's take a look at what happened, starting off with Hobart facing off against St. Lawrence. A normally strong defensive team, St. Lawrence could simply not keep up with Hobart's fast-paced offense. Hobart rushed for a total season-high 348 yards, but Hobart didn't just stop there on the offensive side. The Saints could not keep the ball long on offense. Hobart's defense forced 4 fumbles and 2 interceptions. Hobart came out on top with a 35-3 win. Hobart improves to 6-2 on the season, while St. Lawrence drops to 3-5. It was an unusually close game between last year's Liberty League champions and one of the weaker teams in the conference. Buffalo State and RPI battled it out yesterday, with RPI ultimately winning. It was a back-and-forth scoring game, however. RPI struck first with a 48-yard touchdown by Peter Lombardi, and less than 3 minutes later, Buff State answered with a touchdown of their own. From there, it was truly a test of which defense would crack first. It was ultimately Peter Lombardi who closed the game, just as he'd opened it with a 28-yard reception for a touchdown. RPA comes out of a close one, 28-26. Buffalo State goes to 1-7 on the season, and RPI improves to 5-3. The final game of the day was the biggest, as the Liberty League title was hanging in the balance. Our own Ithaca Bombers faced off against Union. Union dominated in most facets of the game. The Dutchmen held the ball for 36 minutes total and nearly 12 minutes in just the third quarter alone. And even with Ithaca racking up nearly 500 yards on offense, it was the turnovers that decided their fate. A pair of interceptions and a fumble and a turnover on downs prevented them from scoring at the high rate that they are used to. Ithaca fell to Union 31-21, and with that win, Union secures the Liberty League title this year and an automatic NCAA bid. It is the first time since 2006 that the Dutchmen will be dancing in the NCAA tournament. Ithaca is handed its first loss of the season, while Union remains undefeated. Looking to next week and what you can expect from Liberty League matchups, the Bombers will look to bounce back and finish off conference play against RPI. Rochester comes off their bye week, going on the road to face off a tough St. Lawrence team. And finally, Buffalo State will look to battle against a tough Hobart team. Now let's take a look at our Liberty League Players of the Week. On the offensive side, senior running back from Hobart, Brian Hafner, led Hobart on the ground game. Last season, he was all Liberty League's second team, but with his rushing yards this season, he's a strong candidate for first team all-conference. He had a season-high 146 yards and 2 touchdowns against St. Lawrence yesterday, and he did all of that damage on just 12 carries. And on the defensive side, senior linebacker from Union, Cass Knox. Last season, Knox only appeared in 3 games, but this season he has had a huge impact. Knox filled up the stat line on Saturday. He had 6 tackles, an interception, and a broken up pass. Coming up next, Matthias and I sit down with your Ithaca offensive and defensive players of the week, Nick Garone and Miles Hayes. Don't forget to follow us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram at The Gridiron Report to get an inside look on everything that happens in the show. Don't go anywhere. The Gridiron Report will be right back.
Welcome back to the Gridiron Report, everyone, your one-stop shop for all things Bombers football. Tough loss for the Bombers this weekend, but that didn't stop a couple of players from balling out. Let's meet this week's Players of the Week. To my right is a first-year starting linebacker. He had large shoes to fill after Ryan Bronson graduated last year, but boy, is he filling those well. He's second on the team in tackles, and he's making his Gridiron debut. It's Miles Haynes, and then next to him is someone who is no stranger to the show. We've already seen him on once this season, and this may not be the last time. It's the guy who plays alongside Miles Haynes, senior captain and linebacker Nick Gridiron. Gentlemen, thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Nick, I'll start with you. 9 tackles at the half for you. You finished with 16. You knew one of the main points this game that you had to emphasize was IK Irabor, their running back. So what was the game plan coming in to try to minimize what he can do?
Practice and track the hip all week. You know, that was a big drill this week with me and Millie, and you know, just being gap sound in our run responsibilities and not overrunning the running back. And I think we did a pretty good job of that. But you know, we got to tackle better. So.
And Miles, what was the main focus for you coming into last game and preventing Union from capitalizing?
I try to keep the same focus each week. Try not to miss any tackles, not to go outside my 111, do my 111th, and that's how we win games. Everybody do their 111th and don't miss tackles.
So, Nick, you mentioned tackling. I'm not going to ask you about personal achievements because I know you guys are all about the team mentality, but is there something specifically that you saw this past week or you've seen through a couple games that you still think the defense needs to improve on?
Definitely tackling, and we got to get more turnovers. You know, we win the turnover game and we don't miss any tackles. I think most of the time we win the football game, so got to work on that.
Miles, you had a season-high 11 tackles last week. What is the focus now going into next week to stop an efficient RPI offense?
Try to do the same thing. Just don't miss tackles. Practice your 111. Try hard each day in practice, because we beat them on Sundays, Tuesdays, Wednesdays, Thursdays throughout practice, and then on the game we just have fun and do our job.
And Nick, I'll ask you this one. Yesterday's game was a heartbreaker. You had a similar experience last season with the loss to RPI, also what would have been the Liberty League decider. As the senior captain, as one of the leaders for this team, what are you telling your guys in the locker room to keep them engaged and keep them focused?
You know, I think it's either you have to have that mentality that the season's not over. And, you know, we have everything that we want is still in front of us. We got to win out, and we got to come to practice every day, have relentless effort. And like Millie's been saying, do our 111th every day. We'll be fine. We just can't, go in the tank and dump the season over one loss. You know, it sucks, but, we just got to keep going to work every day.
Miles, thus far, it's early, it's Sunday, but what are you guys looking to do to face off against a gritty RPI team? What's your mentality going in?
We're keeping our heads up. We did come off a tough loss, but we're keeping our heads up and we're just keeping our motivation high, and we're going to continue to have fun, because that's how we win games. We have fun out there.
And I'll ask this for both of you. I know this is you talk about faceless opponents, but 2 straight years you've lost to RPI, and now you get a chance to play them. You're having a better season than they are. Are you guys a little extra motivated this week?
I think it's a revenge week. I've never beaten RPI, and last year was a heartbreaker, and we got our butts kicked 2 years ago. So we're going to their house, and I want to upset them give them that feeling that we had this past week.
All right, that's going to do it for the Gridiron Report Players of the Week. Linebackers Nick Gridiron and Miles Haynes leading the charge for the defense. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on. Keep up the great work. As always, follow us on social media for some great content. You can see on the board there our Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. So give us a follow. Make sure you're sticking around for the 4th and goal debate. So we'll be right back. Welcome back to the Gridiron Report. I'm joined by our analysts for today, Jackson Lawrence, Brandon Miller, and Alex Hessig. Gentlemen, let's get right into it. Which phase of this game do you think Ithaca can clean up going forward for the rest of the season? Jackson, let's start with you.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that Ithaca did well, but I think one thing you got to look at, a big thing, is the ball security. Joe Germinario had 3 turnovers, 2 interceptions, a fumble. He also had another fumble that he got on top of. So I think that's something they really got to work on. I know Swansham talked about it before Saturday's game, but I wouldn't be surprised if they clean it up next game.
Brendan?
I'm going to say that the Bombers have to take advantage of those offensive opportunities that they had throughout the game, because we saw they got the ball, but then 6 times they turned the ball over, including 3 times they turned the ball over on down, so not taking advantage of the ball when they have it.
What about you, Alex?
I think we just need to see this offense be less one-dimensional. Joe Germinario throwing 60 pass attempts. Ithaca's running backs only combined for 11 carries the entire game. It's just making this team very predictable and easy to beat down the stretch.
Well, I think, Alex, you want to talk about the running backs. I think another part of the game where that was at least underutilized was the special teams. You had Nicholas Bahamandi, who's one of the best kickers in Division III. He's perfect on the season with a long of 47. And in the pregame, he was banging 60-yarders, hitting from the logo. And I think there were some opportunities for him to get some points on the board for the Bombers, and they just didn't use him. So I think there's opportunities that they're missing.
Yeah, to go on your point, Brennan, I think obviously there's opportunities for Bahamandi to go out there, but you got to credit the Union defense. Ithaca is still 17th in the country in red zone efficiency with 89%, but the Union defense, every time it seemed like Ithaca had momentum, they just stopped it.
All right, gentlemen, let's move to the next question. Which part of this RPI defense can Ithaca attack more to bounce back next week? Brendan, let's start with you.
Well, I'm going to say the RPI defense is, I mean, obviously they're one of the teams at the bottom of the Liberty League standings, but I'm going to say their defensive line is going to be a point of contention, mostly because the Ithaca offensive line struggled this week with Union and allowed a lot of pressure on Joe Germinario.
A lot of pressure, but actually no sacks allowed, so they were able to hold their own at the end. Alex, what do you think?
I think they need to target the RPI secondary. In their last 2 losses, RPI has given up over 600 passing yards between those 2 games and 8 passing touchdowns. And what's the best part of this Ithaca offense? It's their passing attack, so it's a no-brainer for me.
What about you, Jackson?
Yeah, it's got to be the RPI rush defense. Germinario threw 60 passes last week, and I think they need to utilize the run game more. I think Tahiti and Anderson this week are going to have a big week opening up holes with the offensive line. And
last question, gentlemen. Let's just hit this real quickly. There's a loss, but will Ithaca make the playoffs? Alex, what do you think?
It's 50-50 at this point. They lost the automatic berth to get in, so they got to win out, and then up for grabs is one of those 5 at-large bids, and who knows what can happen.
What about you, Jackson?
Yeah, they're still ranked high in the East region, but so is Cortland after they lost their conference championship to Brockport. I think it's a playing game for Cortica, and that makes things that much more interesting.
And Brendan, wrap it up.
Yeah, I agree with Jackson. I think this question is essentially, will Ithaca beat Cortland on November 16th? And I'm actually going to throw my hat and say, yes, I think Ithaca is going to be able to take that game. So I do think that they're going to be able to get a playoff spot over Cortland at the end of the year.
Well, if Brendan's right, Bombers fans are going to be very happy. That'll do it for this week on the Gridiron Report. Thank you to Coach Swanstrom, Nick Garone, Miles Haynes for all stopping by. Talk some Bombers football. Make sure you're tuning in next week. Same time, same channel. We'll be breaking down everything from the Liberty League closer between the 17th ranked Bombers and the RPI Engineers. One last time, hop on your phones and show our social media pages some love and check out some great content for everyone behind the camera. Thanks for tuning in to the Gridiron Report. I'm Matthias Wildman. Good night and roll Bombers.